As I mentioned before, we are so proud to have Aida Touma-Suleiman with us as a member of the Knesset, a Palestinian Israeli citizen who is a member of the Parliament of Israel, the Knesset. She is the chairwoman of the Knesset Standing Committee on the Status of Women and Gender Equality. She is has been the chief editor of Al-Ittihad, the only Arabic newspaper published in Israel, and co-founder of the International Women Commission for Just Peace, Israel-Palestine. She is one lady that you do not mess with. She holds her own on everything, and we are so pleased to have you with us, Aida. Please.
Good morning. Okay, great. So we are ready to start our talk. I really appreciate the nice words you said, Anne. And I would like to thank Veterans for Peace for having me addressing this convention. And I would like also to thank U.S. Peace Council, who has been organizing my speaking tour that started a week ago, and it looks like it's going to continue for another 3-4 days. I'm really happy to be here with you. We've been watching the wonderful work you were doing, and you will continue to do, hopefully. And we understand very much how important these days to have also solidarity, but also partners in the struggle in different parts of the world, but especially in the United States of America. We would like to see more people like you involved in our issues rather than those who are involved these days in our issues. I was planning when we started to organize this speaking tour to speak mainly about what is going on in Gaza and how the protest that started, the return march, Al-Auda march that started in March this year, how it evolved and how it is continuing and what kind of oppression the Israeli army used against and still using against our own people, the Palestinian people in Gaza. And of course, we understood that it is not an issue that is going to end in one day. And I'm happy now that you gave some information about what is going on, and because I'm not going to get into too much details about what's going on. It's not because it's not important. It's not because it's not painful. And it is really painful. It is painful to wait till every Friday you can to hear what's going on and to see how people are bombed, how people are killed, and how people are still struggling, insisting on their right for freedom and their right for approaching their rights, including the return right. But I'm saying I'm not going to focus on this because something very dangerous had happened in Israel on the 19th of July this year. The Knesset, which I'm member of, in the last day of the summer session, have voted on a new law, a basic law. A basic law, for those who do not know, is a law that is supposed to form, the basic laws are supposed to form the constitution that Israel till today don't have. The basic law, the new basic law says it's under the name Israel, the nation state of the Jewish people. Why I am here in the United States speaking to Veterans for Peace about an internal law, supposedly, a law that is supposed to be a pure Israeli issue. Because first of all, it is not. It is not an internal issue. This law is there, and I called it dangerous, because first of all, It is mixing the external and the internal and leading into a situation where Israel is liquidating, by this law, the right of the Palestinian people to establish their own state and liquidating the right of the Palestinian people to finish the occupation that has been going on for more than 50 years. This law closed the door by the Israeli mentality, by the government's right-wing mentality on this right, because it is a law that says and starts, it is a law that is supposed to define the state of Israel. And it starts from the first moment by saying that in the first article, the land of Israel. Suddenly, a law that is legislated in the Knesset of Israel is using a biblical and a Zionist terminology of the land of Israel, mixing the definition of a state that's supposed to have clear borders into a terminology that extends the state to include not only 1948 lands where Israel was established, but to include also the Palestinian lands and maybe the Jordanian too. Because land of Israel, for those who don't know, it is known that it is from the sea to the river. And there is a huge debate if it is the Jordanian river or the Iraqi river, so that it can extend to Jordan and to Iraq. Using this terminology, saying that land of Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people, is trying to put a fact in the law book of Israel, saying that claiming the ownership of the land for only and solely of the Jewish people. Denying, not by saying, but by ignoring and insisting that this is the homeland only for the Jewish people, denying the right of the Palestinians in their own homeland. This is one of the most dangerous laws also, because it is a colonial law. Not only by expressing the political will and aspirations of this very right-wing government with fascist components, but it is also colonial because it is including parts, very clearly, parts of the Palestinian land that is declared in the whole world as occupied territory. Why I'm saying this? Because one of the articles of the law says that the unified Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Of course, this kind of statement or this kind of article in the law has got a real good support lately by the decision of Trump's administration to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv into Jerusalem. That was a green line given to the Netanyahu's government that you can continue to violate the international law. You can continue to, in a very clear way, be against the whole international community decisions and to claim East Jerusalem, which is occupied territory, as the capital of Israel. This law is colonial because it wants to continue to exist. It wants the occupation and the settlements to continue to exist and want to make it legal, but also it is a law that is violating in a very clear way the international law and getting into a situation where it is almost closing the door on what is called the two-state solution. In my opinion, we should stop saying the two-state solution. Why I'm saying this? Because there is one state that is already existing. We are claiming to stop the occupation of the Palestinian territories. We are claiming the freedom of the Palestinian people from occupation. And we are claiming the establishment of the Palestinian state. There is no question about the existence of the state of Israel. Talking about two states, which is okay, talking about two states in order to make the point that a Palestinian state should be established alongside Israel. But emphasizing it and trying to show as if there are two people who are struggling to establish their own state. No, there is one state, and it's one of the most powerful states, and we need to claim the right of the other people, the Palestinians, the indigenous people, those who existed in that homeland, to establish their own state. By this law, Netanyahu's government is trying to create not only a different narrative or to establish one narrative of that piece of land, but also to determine one kind of a future for that piece of land. It is the future of a one apartheid state and continuous oppression of the Palestinians, if they are in the occupied territories or if they are citizens of Israel, like me. This is the future that is planned by this basic law. This basic law says very clearly that the future of Israel is a future of a state that gives superiority for one group of its citizens over the other. We, as citizens of Israel, Palestinian citizens of Israel, compose 20% of the citizens. We are not mentioned in any way in this law. We are the absentees in this law. A state that wants to define itself by a basic law do not mention even that there are minorities living among the citizens. And it defines that mainly the citizens or the people that this state was created for is only the Jewish people. And you know what? It's not only the Jewish people in Israel. It's the Jewish people all over the world. This is what the articles of the law says. So any Jewish American who have decided to be a citizen of the United States of America and decided not to use the Israeli law that gives him the opportunity to come back to Israel, as the terminology that is used, or to become a citizen of Israel, is more important for the state of Israel than I am. The citizen who not choose only, born, living, and struggling for a better future for the two people of that land. This is a superior situation that will never be accepted by us. The Article 7 of the law says very clearly that establishing, developing the Jewish settlement in Israel is a national value. Is there anything more clear about how this law is actually officially declaring the apartheid regime in Israel? This law is officially declaring that the state of Israel from now on, if it was by practice till now, if it was only by practice for some people in the West Bank like this, it's from now on officially inside Israel is going to be an apartheid regime that is oppressing 20% of its citizens. We will be segregated and we will be forbidden to enter, it looks like, or to live in some of the cities and towns. Some people will tell me, what's new? This was the situation over many years, which is true. This was the kind of unspoken, unformalized, officially policy inside Israel. Since 1948 till today, there were more than 700 Jewish localities established till today. I'm not going to count the Palestinian villages and towns that were demolished since 1948, and the people who were relocated. But even to count those which were built for Arab citizens, it's zero. And in many localities in the Jewish community, there is a possibility to refuse to accept any Arab who applied to be part of that community. The new thing about this law, although that was the policy, that it wasn't written, it wasn't official, and as if the standard was equality. But the practice was wrong. That was the situation till today. From now on, the official standard is discrimination. And maybe the abnormal policy that will be taken is sometimes kind of equality. So now we are facing a situation where discrimination, inequality is the norm, is the standard from now on. That's why we are saying this is a horrible, dangerous situation. There's another issue that is very important for us to emphasize in this law. The law has a special article say that the language of the state is Hebrew, the official language of the state, which undermine the status of the Arabic language, our language, the language of the space, the language that historically existed in that land. Till now, what was the situation is that Israel adopted a Turkish Ottoman law from previous days that dealt with Arabic and Hebrew as official languages. And we managed through a lot of struggle to bring into a situation where this language is more and more respected in the official procedures by the different ministries. By this law, which says that the Arabic language from now on will have a special status in the country. You know, I know about official languages. I know about the status of foreign languages, but I don't know what does it mean to have a special status. We wanted to test what are the borders of the special status. What does it mean to have a language as a special status? So one of my colleagues in the Knesset, who was supposed as part of a rotation agreement in our list, has to give his resignation. And he gave his resignation in Arabic to the Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House refused to sign that letter of resignation, which was really strange. Usually, many people are happy when we resign, but in this case, it didn't happen like this, and the Speaker did not agree to sign it and to confirm it. Of course, when it was over the newspapers and the media, and we used it to prove here, this is an example of what you mean about a special status. He tried to explain it that he didn't understand the language and he couldn't understand what was written there, so he had to send it to special translation in order to sign it, and he signed it. But this is exactly how the language will be treated in the official procedures, because then nothing enforces any ministry to give the opportunity to the Arab citizens to use their language in those procedures. till today, you could insist to give your testimony in the courts in Arabic. And the court has to provide you with an interpreter so that they will understand the testimony. I'm sure this is not going to be the situation, but still, we are not talking about this article as part of technicalities or part of procedures. We are talking here about denying the culture, the history, the existence of us, the Palestinians, in our homeland. Because language is not an instrument only. It is reflecting the existence and the culture of people. And we think that this law is trying to deny the history, to deny the narrative, to have one Zionist approach for it, and to deny the existence and the right of the Palestinian people. You should know that there's a special article in this law that says very clearly the right of self-determination is solely for the Jewish people in Israel. So even if we are talking about the citizens of Israel, even if they want to speak only about Israel in 1948, this is against the international law. Because minorities and indigenous people have the right of self-determination. But still, when you do not determine what are the borders of Israel, and you use the language of land of Israel, we think that this is a denial of the right of self-determination of the Palestinian people in general. Why I'm saying this? Because just quickly, and I know I have to. 10? Wow, that's good. Why I'm saying this? Because this law cannot be read and understood without the general context of what is happening on the ground these days in Israel, in Palestine, in the Middle East. We believe that this law that has been introduced in the Knesset in the last 7 years, the first time it was introduced to the Knesset as a bill in 2011. And through the years, different members have introduced different versions. So what happened now? Why Netanyahu and his government insisted very clearly, and he said it many times in the last 2 months, he said this law will be legalized, will be legislated finally before we go to the summer recess. He wanted to finish his duty before going to election. We believe that there are 3 major issues leading Netanyahu's idea of promoting this law. Ideologically, because as much as he wants to promote himself in the world as someone who is supporting political agreements and finishing the occupation or the 2-state solution, Netanyahu don't want this ideologically. He believes in the Israel land or Great Israel land. One day before the last election, Netanyahu in 2015 said very clearly, I'm promising you to put all my efforts to avoid the establishment of the Palestinian state. He declared that in Hebrew, not in English, inside Israel for his constituency. But you know, it was a rare moment of truth practiced by Netanyahu. This is exactly what he wants. Politically also, Netanyahu understands that he is standing in a very historical moment from his point of view. He will never have a better situation to promote his political agenda than these days, for our regret. The unlimited support that is given to this horrible right-wing with fascist components government by the United States of America, by Trump's administration, will maybe not be occurring in the next few years. And Netanyahu understands this. Netanyahu understands that he is in a situation that he is able to do it. You know, he wanted to do it, and now he's able to do it because of the support, because of the unlimited support. The situation now is that the Arab world is so weak that it cannot even react to what is happening, or at least there are two kinds of Arab world. One is so weakened by the wars, by the bloodshedding, that is very busy with his own internal issues, that is not able to react. And there's the other side of the Arab world who is allying very clearly with the United States policy in the Middle East, including allying with Israel under the claim of confronting the Iranian danger. And I won't get more because my colleagues will explain that very well. This is the situation. Today, what is happening with Netanyahu is not only that he is able to introduce and to legislate this law. He is able also to create facts on the ground that will block the possibility to create a one Palestinian independent state. He wants to create a situation of three major blocks of Palestinian territories controlled by the continuous Israeli occupation, maybe something like Gaza, to tell the world that we disengage from Gaza, but actually the Israeli government is interfering in the amount of food that the Gazan people are supposed to eat, is interfering in the medical treatment that people need to get. And we're dealing with tens of cases of women who are suffering from breast cancer, and the only treatment they can get is in the West Bank and Israel, and the army is not giving them the permits. They want to create those three entities. Why I'm saying they are creating those three entities? Because look what's happening. They are now holding negotiations with Hamas in order, under the claim, to ease the blockade or the siege over Gaza. Because they understand that they cannot continue like this. The Israeli government understands they pushed the Gazan too far. And they thought that the return march will happen for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they will oppress it, and we will get rid of that question. But the insistence and the persistence of the Palestinians in Gaza have put a situation where something has to be done. And of course, it's not going to be a real solution. It's going to ease a little bit. They are negotiating through Egypt, and they want to ease somehow a little bit. But the main issue is that they are using these negotiations, actually, in my opinion, to isolate and separate Gaza from the West Bank. They are reinforcing the division, and they want to separate Gaza so that Gaza will have its own solutions. Have you heard about the story of Khan al-Ahmar? Khan al-Ahmar is a Bedouin village that exists exactly in what's the so-called the corridor that links the northern of the West Bank with the south of the West Bank. Khan al-Ahmar is under attack to be evacuated and the people to be dislocated in order to take over this piece of land and to connect the settlements which exist there with Jerusalem. That will create a continuity of Jerusalem to that part, but it will also separate north of West Bank from south of West Bank with the belt that will be all settlements. This is not only a story of evacuating a small village. It is a story of killing the possibility to create a Palestinian state that is connected geographically. And it is creating 3 cantons that will be controlled by Israel. This is what actually this government wants. The Israeli Netanyahu's government want to get into a situation that using this historical window that was created for creating this situation and liquidating the possibility. That's why it's more than ever needed to be heard that the Palestinians deserve their own state, and the Palestinians should be freed from the Israeli occupation, and Israel cannot continue to be respected in the international community while it is declaring itself as an apartheid regime. Thank you very much.